Hello everyone, my name is Divyam Singh and in this video I will be giving a video lecture on Turing machine. What is Turing machine? A Turing machine is a mathematical model of computation describing an abstract machine that manipulates symbols on a strip of tape according to a table of rules. Despite the model's simplicity, it is capable of implementing any computer algorithm. Look at this picture. This is a physical Turing machine model. A true machine would have unlimited tape on both sides. However, physical models can only have a finite amount of tape. A Turing machine is a general example of a control processing unit (CPU) that controls all data manipulation done by a computer. Here in the diagram, you can see the classes of an automata. If you have studied about classes of automata, you might be aware of the different machines and the kind of languages they accept. In this video, we are going to focus on Turing machines particularly. We know there are limitations of finite state machines and push down automata. Now, we will be looking at Turing machines, which are more powerful than finite state machines and push down automata, and the class of languages accepted by Turing machine are recursively enumerable languages, which we will be discussing in detail as we proceed further in this lecture. Now, let us see what were the data structures that we had in finite state machines and push-down automata. And let's see what is the kind of data structure in Turing machine. In case of finite state machines, the data structure that we had was only the input string, which is we have an input string and we have a control which can move only in one direction, that is only forward. Finite state machines have very limited power and very limited memory, and the class of languages accepted are only regular languages. In push-down automata, the data structure that we have is an input string and also a stack. Because of the presence of a stack, the push-down automata is more powerful than finite state machine. And the class of languages that accept are the context-free languages, which are a higher class of languages as compared to regular languages. This is a diagram. We have the input string and also the stack, which added more power to the push-down automata. Now, coming down to our Turing machine. In Turing machine, the data structure that we have is something known as a tape. A tape looks like this, shown in the diagram. So we see that the tape is a sequence of infinite symbols, and over here we have something known as a tape head. So the tape head is positioned on the symbol on which the current control is present, and the tape head can either move one step to the left or one step to the right, depending on the kind of combination that we have. And then here we have the input symbols, and as I told you, this is an infinite sequence. So the input symbols that we have, they are filled into these cells, and then the remaining cells, instead of leaving them just blank, we fill them with a special kind of symbol that is known as the blank symbol. And if you see here, we have the tape alphabets, which are represented by sigma. You know, sigma, it is used to represent input symbols. And the tape alphabets can contain 0, 1, AB, or any kind of symbols like this. And as I told you, the blank symbol is a special symbol. And something that you need to know is that the blank symbol does not belong to sigma. That means that the blank symbol is not part of the tape alphabets, or it is not part of the tape symbols. But what is it? It is just a kind of special symbol that we use to fill the infinite tape. So as we are having an infinite tape, the blank or the empty cells are filled with these special symbols known as the blank symbol, represented by this. So this is the basic data structure that we have in our Turing machine. The main thing that we need to remember from this slide is that the tape is an infinite sequence, and the tape head is at a position where the current control is present, and the empty cells are filled in by a symbol, special symbol known as the blank symbol. Now let's look at the initial configuration of a Turing machine. So we have a Turing machine. The initial configuration of the tape, it looks something like this. So here, as I told you, we have the input string represented by these symbols over here, and then the empty cells. It is filled by these symbols known as the blank symbols. So it blanks out to the infinity. And then we have the tape head, which is positioned at the leftmost cell, which is at the start. And now let us see what are the operations that we can perform on the tape. So these are the operations that we can have on our tape. So the first one is read or scan the symbol below the tape. So as I told you, this tape head represents the position at which our current control is present. So you can always either read or write only the symbol that is present exactly below the tape head. So if you're having your tape head over here, I can read or scan the symbol which is present exactly below the tape head. The second The second operation which you can perform is update or write a symbol below the tape head. So again, we have to see where is our tape head, and then the symbol below the tape head can be updated. That means, for example, we have A over here, and this A can be updated. That means it can be overwritten by some other symbol, let's say B. So we can replace this A with B or anything else depending on the input symbols that we have. So you can either read the symbol below the tape head, or you can write the symbol below the tape head. And the other operation that you can perform is move the tape head one step to the left, or move the tape head one step right. So you can move the tape head one step to the left or one step to the right. So remember that you cannot move more than one step, but only one step you can move either to the left or to the right. So these are the operations that we can perform on our Turing machine. So here I have a diagram which represents or shows how actually a Turing machine looks like. So here we have the control portion, and here we have the tape about which we have already discussed in the last slide. So let us see what is this control portion. The control portion is similar to finite state machine or the push down automata. So this control portion or the program, this is the main controlling portion of the Turing machine, which takes care of how the control has to be handled in a Turing machine. So we say that this is similar to finite state machine or push down automata. So remember, this is not actually a finite state machine or a push down automata, but it is similar, something similar to that, because this is the portion that is controlling your Turing machine. So this is the program or the control portion of your Turing machine. And one thing that you need to remember is that it is deterministic. Now, non-deterministic does not buy you any additional power in case of Turing machine as you will study ahead. So I was saying that this is the control portion and this is the tape. So the tape is another important part of the Turing machine, and as we already discussed, the tape consists of tape head, which represents the current portion of the control, and then we have the input string which are filled into these cells, and then we have the empty cells which are filled with the symbols known as the blank symbols. Why do we have this? Why do we do this? Because we do this because our tape is an infinite sequence, so our empty cells, we don't want to leave them blank. Instead of that, we fill them with special symbols known as the blank symbols, goes out to infinity. Now we will discuss the rules of operations. Now we have two sets of operations. So this is set number one, and it says that at each step of the computation, what we have to do, we can read this current symbol, and then we can update or write the same cell, and you can move exactly one cell either to the right or to the left. So in the previous slide, we already discussed that what are the operations that you can perform on a tape, and at each step of the computation, you have to look where your tape head is present, and that is the current symbol that we consider. And you can read the current symbol and then you can update. That means you can write in the same cell. What is the same cell? It is the cell or the symbol on which your tape head is currently present. And then you can move exactly one cell either to the left or to the right. You can move only one step, not more than one step. And then one more rule that you should remember is that if we are at the left end of the tape and we are trying to move left, then we cannot move. We do not move. Stay at the left end of the tape. So if you are having the tape and your tape head is in the leftmost end of the tape and you are trying to move to the left, then you know there is no place to move to the left because this is the leftmost end. So if you are in that kind of situation, then you should not move. You have to just stay at the left end of the tape. Now, here we have the diagram which represents the transition diagram of a Turing machine. So, we have the circles representing the state, and we have the transition over here and with some symbols. And let us see what these symbols mean. So, it says A, and then we have an arrow, and then B, and then we have an R over here. So the leftmost symbol over here, which is represented by the symbol A, it represents the symbol that you need to read. So remember that you are going to take this transition only if the tape head is on this symbol A. So A is the symbol that you are going to read. Then the symbol represented by B is the symbol that you need to write. So your tape head was present on the cell which was containing A, and you want to update that A with B. That is, in the same cell you want to write B. So the symbol that you want to write is represented by the symbol B. And then what is the next step that we need to do? I already said we have to move one step to the left or to the right. So this symbol over here, it gives you the direction to move. The direction to move either to the left or to the right. So you have an R over here, it means move to the right. And if you have an L over here, it means move to the left. So that is the meaning of the symbols in the transition diagram. Now there is one case that this is this is if you do not want to update the cell, then what do you do? So let's assume that our tape head is on one symbol and that you are reading that symbol and you have to update the same cell. Now, what if you don't want to update? You want to leave that cell as it is. Then what you have to do, you have to just write the same symbol again. So if you don't want to update any symbol in particular cell on which your tape head is present, then you have to just write the same symbol onto that cell. So this down here represents that situation. This circle represents the state. You see that on your tape head is on the symbol 1, and this symbol that you are going to read. So since you don't want to update the cell, what you do is you just write the same symbol onto the cell again. So you have one here and you have one here also, because you are writing the same thing in the same cell. And then we have L over here, which means you have to move to the left. So those were the first set of rules of operations that you can perform. Now let us go to the second set of rules of operations. Now, coming to the second set of rules of operations, the first point says the control is with a sort of finite state machine. So this was the first thing that I showed you when we started 2 slides back with the diagram. So as I told you, the control or the program is with some sort of finite state machine. It may not exactly be finite state machine, but it is something similar to FSM or a push down automata. And then we have our initial state as usual. And then coming to the final state, we need to know that there are exactly two final states in a Turing machine. And what are they? One is the accept state and the other one is the reject state. So there are two final state, and the first one is the accept state. That is, something is accepted, or if a string is accepted, then Turing machine goes into the accept state. And in case if the string is rejected, or if something is rejected or it is not accepted, then the Turing machine will go into the reject state, which is some another kind of final state. So there are two kind of final states that we have in our Turing machine. And then there is another thing that we need to know, that when does our computation of a Turing machine halt? Halt means when does it come to stop? So computation can either halt and accept. That means when you reach an accepting stage, when the string is accepted, that time the machine comes to a halt, or that time the machine stops. And then the second case is that it halts and rejects. That means when a string is not accepted and when it comes to a reject state, then also the machine halts. So coming to the reject state, also the machine stops its computation. And then there is a special case in case number 3, which we call loop. That means the machine fails to halt. So the first two cases are clear. It comes to an accept state or it comes to a reject state on a particular input. And in some input, the machine could go into a loop. That means that keeps on computation. The machine keeps on computation and it never comes to an accept state, or neither does it come to a reject state. It keeps on computation and it fails to stop. So that condition is known as loop. So in a loop, machine fails to halt. So these are the conditions that we can get when we do our computation in a Turing machine. So these are important things that you need to remember about the basics of Turing machine. So this was a video lecture given by me, Divyam Singh. I hope you liked the video and learned something from it. Thank you for watching this video.